Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. And thank you to the panelists for participating in today's session titled Raising Rural Voices, Discovering Permanent Solutions to Improve Access. My name is Cassidy Pont, and I will be your moderator for today's session. I first just want to take a moment and acknowledge the great start we've had with the conference and really appreciate Secretary Vilsack's and Secretary Cardona's remarks, really highlighting and underscoring the need to pull from the creative ways child nutrition programs have shown up to feed children during the pandemic and continue to feed children to make sure kids have the opportunity to perform best in school and in life. We know about 12 million children face hunger today, which is above pre-pandemic levels. And hunger affects a child's ability to grow and develop properly, including physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially, which can affect them their whole lives if not addressed early on. Too many children and families are disproportionately affected by geographic, cultural, and racial inequities that were greatly exacerbated by the pandemic. However, something positive that has occurred over the last 2+ years with the pandemic are the waiver flexibilities that have allowed programs to test out innovative ways to reach children and prove them successful to best meet the needs of children across the country, particularly those living in rural, hard-to-reach communities. Today, we'll hear from 3 panelists that have been on the front lines serving kids in rural communities, and they'll speak to challenges in rural communities before a pandemic, how those challenges changed with the pandemic, and what we've learned about reaching children in rural communities to take with us in the future. Before our panelists introduce themselves, I'm honored to be able to introduce our keynote speaker for this session, Stacy Dean. Stacy Dean was appointed by President Biden to serve as the Deputy Undersecretary for USDA's Food, Nutrition, and Consumer Services, where she works to advance the president's agenda on increasing nutrition assistance, all with an equity lens. For those of us in the policy sphere, we may recognize Stacy Dean from when she was Vice President for Food Assistance Policy at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Having graduated from the University of Michigan myself, I would be remiss without mentioning Stacy Dean is also a fellow Wolverine, having earned her BA and master's degree in public policy from the University of Michigan. Now, Undersecretary Dean, I'll let you take it away.
Hello, I'm Stacy Dean, USDA's Deputy Undersecretary for Food, Nutrition, and Consumer Services. Thank you for inviting me to join you and for taking time out of your busy schedules to be a part of this important conversation. I'm a longtime admirer and partner of Share Our Strength and the No Kid Hungry Network. It's a pleasure to be with such a passionate group of people who have a powerful impact on their communities. I want to take this opportunity to recognize your incredible efforts throughout the pandemic and long before. COVID-19 exposed and exacerbated many things, forcing all of us to look closer at long-standing problems like childhood hunger and inequities in rural America, which is what brings us together here today. But it also highlighted the resiliency of American communities and our commitment to coming together to ensure all children are well-fed and have an opportunity to succeed. And it forced us all to innovate and adapt. F&S programs continue to operate when so much of the world shut down because of advocates, partners, and dedicated workers on the front lines. We couldn't do our work at F&S without champions like you, helping to tackle the issue of child hunger from all angles. And we can't move forward in improving our programs to build off lessons learned from the past few years without your help. The Biden-Harris administration is committed to lifting up families across America and providing them with the support they need and deserve, regardless of race or gender, or income or ethnicity, of immigration status or zip code. The president always says that rural communities are the backbone of our nation. He believes that when rural communities thrive, America thrives. Yet we know that food insecurity disproportionately impacts rural and remote areas. Some of our core programs, our core approaches to fighting hunger through our federal nutrition programs aren't perfectly suited to the circumstances in rural and remote areas. And we know that households with children are more likely to struggle against hunger. Data from just last month shows that food insufficiency is an estimated 62% higher in households with kids. So we have much work to do to ensure that these children are fed. But it's not enough to just put food on the table. We need to ensure it's high quality, nourishing food. To support rural communities, to give children in rural areas the opportunity to thrive, we must promote both food security and nutrition security, or having consistent access to safe, healthy, affordable food, essential to health and well-being. It's well established that food insecurity is correlated with a high prevalence of diet-related diseases and health disparities. That's why we're looking across all of our programs for ways we can better serve rural communities and advance food and nutrition security amongst children in rural areas. In the keynote panel, Secretary Vilsack touched on several ways we're seeking to do that, including partnering with states to issue summer EBT benefits to support eligible families in rural areas that may have limited access to more traditional summer meal programs. We're also looking at the lessons from the Emergency Meals to You program to see what we can apply in future effort aimed at getting much needed food to kids in extremely remote areas. We're working to increase equity throughout WIC, pursuing several program modifications that will help us serve more moms and kids who are eligible for the program, including those in rural areas. And we're working to build upon the successful expansion of SNAP online purchasing with a focus on smaller independent grocery stores and assessing our impact on food deserts, including rural areas. And we introduced a new grant program, the Emergency Food Assistance Reach and Resiliency Grants, to help expand our support to food banks into more remote, rural, tribal, and low-income areas that have been historically underserved. As the Secretary also discussed, we know there are significant challenges ahead, first and foremost in the school meals programs. We know that for those of you working in summer and after school meals, this coming year won't feel normal. We share in your disappointment that Congress did not extend our authority to offer free meals to all children or provide higher reimbursement rates or flexibilities that we still so critically need. Without that authority, our toolbox is much more limited. But with the tools we do have, we're committed to doing all we can to work with states, schools, and partners to ensure kids continue to get the nutritious meals they need and deserve. And we're here to support you and the children that rely on your programs each school day and each summer day. But we need your help, not just in school meals, but across all of our programs. We rely on partners like you to give us feedback, ideas, innovation, and inspiration, to share with us your firsthand experiences and to tell us if we're on the right track. If we're going to maximize our impact, modernize our programs, and really move the needle on the issue of rural hunger, we need you to share your ideas with us, be bold, ask the hard questions, and hold us accountable. Hunger is a complex problem, and in order to shift things from how they are to how they should be, we need your input. So I invite the leaders of No Kid Hungry and Save the Children to come meet with me and my USDA colleagues to share the learnings of this conference. Bring your key takeaways, big ideas, and honest feedback. Let us know how we can work together and in partnership with rural communities, because when rural communities thrive, America thrives. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Janet Barth, and I'm a school nutrition specialist in 29 Palms, California. I began my career in school nutrition in 1993 as a nutritional services worker, working on the front line, feeding students. My passion for child nutrition grew as I saw how grateful the students were for the meals. I was inspired to make a difference, and now I'm currently the Director of Nutritional Services for Morongo Unified School District. Next slide. Thank you. As I said, we are in the Morongo Basin. We live in the Mojave High Desert of Southern California. So if you go to the second slide, you can see that there's a picture of a Joshua tree. That is truly what it looks like here in the Morongo Unified School District. We have 16 schools and then an additional community school. Our enrollment is listed as 8481, but with the current pandemic, we generally right now run about 7,300 students. We have 16 school sites. 3 of them are high schools, 2 are junior highs, 11 elementary schools, and of course the 1 community center. We're currently running the CEP program, so we are reimbursed at 88.78% of our enrollment. Our participation on a general level is 26% at breakfast, 69% at lunch, and 10% at supper. And we have 87 dedicated team members in our department. Thank you for letting me be a part.
Hello, my name is Tina Bird. I'm with the Jasper School District in Jasper, Arkansas, and I've been with the district with child nutrition for 25 years. Jasper School District is made up of 3 campuses. We have Kingston and Oark. Jasper is geographically one of the state's largest school districts. Newton, Johnson, Madison, Franklin, and Carroll counties. Our story started back March 2020 when school shut down. Students at the district began receiving meals at home immediately, with almost 1,200 miles being covered for the 3 campuses. Most waivers came, letting us deliver to more children, other than the only enrolled students at the district. Numbers doubled and jumped to more than 600 and more. Children that had meals delivered to their homes directly from the Jasper School campus. Still today, our workers are making deliveries to the children through the SSO and other waivers covering 5 counties in Arkansas and several more miles. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anna Lusk, and I am the Child Nutrition Director for Henry County Public Schools. I have a master's in public health nutrition, and I'm a certified nutritionist for the state of Kentucky. I also represent Region 4 as a director for our Kentucky School Nutrition Association. I have been in school nutrition since January of 2017, so a little over 5 years, and I have been the director since March of 2020, so about a week before the pandemic hit. Next slide, please. So like I said, I'm the director for Henry County Public Schools. We are a small rural district made up of 5 schools, 1 high school, 1 middle school, and 3 elementary schools. We have approximately 1,900 students enrolled. We are a CEP district. We offer school breakfast program, also second chance breakfast at some of our locations, the National School Lunch Program, which of course this year we have been offering the SSO, and the Summer Food Service Program. So we last summer, 2021 was our first summer operating the Summer Food Service Program. So that was very successful for us. Our breakfast participation is about 62%, lunch is about 78%, and last summer, we served nearly 41,000 meals during our summer program. So I thought that was pretty successful for us. And that's all I'll have. I'll turn it back over to Cassidy.
Well, thank you all. And I want to commend you 3 and all the nutrition directors across the country. I continue to be amazed at your dedication, your passion, and your enthusiasm in showing up for kids every day and making sure they continue to be fed despite all the challenges thrown at you, particularly the past couple years. I so look forward to learning more from all of you during this session, and just want to remind the audience to please use the Q&A feature in submitting questions you may have, and we hope to answer some of them at the end of the session. So now we will dive right in. We know that most people picture rural communities as having sparsely spread out grocery stores and driving far distances to reach, well, anything. So can you describe what child hunger really looks like in your rural community? And Anna, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so there are lots of food deserts in the community I serve. Leaving families driving maybe 20 to 30 minutes at least to large chain grocery stores. So we mainly just have access to convenience stores. So many of our students and children in the community rely on school meals to close that hunger gap.
And Tina, how about you? Tina, I think you may be muted.
Sorry. Well, hunger looks like a little child coming to meet you as you pull into their yard with their wagon behind them, meeting you with a grin, ready to take their food boxes and milk into their house. Hunger looks like a mom that is so thankful, humble to receive any help. And hunger is seeing a child's face opening a box of food and feeling like it is Christmas. And they're so excited. And yes, we do have 2 of our schools that have no grocery store within 20 miles of their distance.
Wow, and Janet, give us a little bit of a picture of Morongo Basin.
All right. Our community, the Morongo Basin, covers 1,400 square miles of the Mojave High Desert of Southern California, which, if you want a picture, it's actually larger than the state of Rhode Island. It has one major road crossing through several cities in our district. And so driving through, you might think, wow, this goes on for miles. But if you actually go north or south, just a few blocks off the main road, the desert begins. As a result, families needing groceries can drive up to 30 miles one way to find a store, and many commute long distance for employment, spending much on gas and car maintenance. With a free reduced rate of 71.5%, this creates a challenge for many of our families. I'll never forget a particular student from one of our elementary sites. He was the life of the school, the class clown. He was popular with the students and somewhat of a troublemaker. He came through the breakfast and lunch line every day, always smiling and ready with a joke or two. Years later, during his graduation speech, after acknowledging the administration, he looked over to our cafeteria staff and said, I wanted to thank these wonderful cafeteria ladies. They fed me every day and always had a smile for me. Most of my life out of school, I was hungry. I would not have succeeded in school if it wasn't for them. This had such an impact on me and my passion for school nutrition. For in our area, as well as many areas across the nation, school is truly the place students know 3 nutritious meals will be waiting for them.
Wow, what a beautiful story, Janet. And thank you for sharing that. And you're exactly right. We often hear trying to meet people where they're at, which I think is just what school nutrition programs do. We know that schools aren't just a place for learning and socialization, but also that source of food. And in fact, research has shown that school food can be the healthiest meal children eat in a day. However, we know that running programs are not easy, particularly running a nutrition program for an entire district is not an easy task. So what are some of the factors that impact the success of your school meal program in a rural community, and for better or for worse? And Tina, we'll pass it to you first.
Being able to take food to homes of children under 18 and for parents to come to school and pick up the students' meals, that had been the most impact for success for our district. Every day we were out delivering or waiting by the milk cooler, handing out to families that had signed up for the meals. And the summer meals in the past meant at the Jasper campus serving just the summer camp kids, basketball camp, and a few from the town that could walk to school and eat. Less than 100 at any one time. The Kingston campus would serve vacation Bible school kids with a number of at least 40 or less. And the OARC campus kids are so rural that most of them live on dirt roads. So to come to school and eat a meal is more of an inconvenience for their families.
Transportation is often a huge barrier to rural communities. So thank you for pointing that out. A very important point. And Janet, how about you?
You know, there are many factors that impact the success of our meal program: attendance, participation, transportation, state and federal regulations, and staffing, just to name a few. As in many rural communities, the distance traveled to school can be long. Missing the bus can mean the difference of making it to school or not. Participation can vary greatly, as creating a menu that is pleasing to all students takes creativity to a new level. Monitoring and adhering to the ever-changing guidelines continually give us an opportunity to excel. And on the bright side, in a small community, we're not individuals, we're a family. And we're all striving for the same goal, which is to provide nutritious meals to our students and enable them to learn without hunger barriers.
That team collective effort is so important and integral to all of our work in terms of child nutrition. And Anna, how about what are some factors that impact the success of your school meal program?
Well, I will say one of the biggest barriers that we face is actually during the summer. So we have, of course, started offering the summer food service program along with the mobile meals. But our county is so large, it's hard to cover the entire county with the time and the resources that we have. Like I said, last year we started operating a mobile meal program, and that helped us and the families tremendously. But there are still children that are not being reached. So we hope to be able to reach more children each year. The waivers have helped us a lot. But outside of that, just being able to, get the resources that we need to reach those families the best to our ability. And like Janet said, working as a family, we all come together and work hard to feed the children, especially during the summertime.
Absolutely. And we do hope to reach more children in need every year. We know pre-pandemic, 11 million children were facing hunger. The pandemic hit, that skyrocketed to about 17 million. And now we're still above pre-pandemic levels. And on top of that, we know that rural communities face more challenges by nature, even outside of a pandemic, whether it be the transportation difficulties, the storage problems, the extreme weather that we're all facing with climate change. And so what are some of the specific strategy that your school district typically used to effectively address any of the barriers to success? And Janet, we'll start with you.
In our district, we strive to ensure that every student finds something they live on the menu because we want to pull them in. We do things like holding vendor fairs to allow the students to choose what is served each day. We actually will pull in 20 different vendors and put them all the way around a multi-purpose room. And we'll bring in hundreds of students from different schools in our district. We bus them in and have a huge vendor fair, which is so exciting for the kids, and it gives them ownership to what's on the menu. Our staff have recipe creation days where we just spend an entire day, looking at what we have available and what we can actually use to create some new menu options. And of course, we focus on our staff and safety. We offer serve safe training to every employee in our employ and ensuring the finest, safest meals for our students. On average, our staff receive triple the amount of professional development that's currently required by the regulations. So looking at what they want to eat and making sure what we serve is safe are key to us to make sure that we bring the kids in.
Absolutely. And that recipe creation day sounds like a blast. And so I would like to join. So Janet, you can send me that link later to join that day. And Tina, how about you? What are some strategies that your school typically use to effectively address any barriers to success?
So we were able to buy a van, which helped tremendously. And then we had large portable coolers that we would pack in buses and the vans. And then we got a grant and bought a refrigerated truck. And so it's a big route. Now we have so many kids on our route. And that helped to support our mission of helping children.
Absolutely. And people don't often think about the food safety aspect of your job as well, not just the transportation, but making sure you're holding it at those proper temperatures. So I'm sure that the refrigeration in those mobile units definitely helped with your reach. And Anna, how about yourself?
Yeah, so grants have been a tremendous help for us in my district. We're a very small district, so of course we operate on a small budget. So getting the grants that we have We've been able to purchase new equipment, anything from coolers to new ovens to help us prepare more food, higher quality food. We were able to purchase a van, which helped us start our new mobile meal program to reach more children in our community, and just ultimately reach more children. And that's what we're here for.
And you bring up such a great point with school kitchen equipment. We often don't think about the behind the scenes and what goes on from ordering the food to then having it be on a tray for kids. And that kitchen equipment can greatly expand the nutritious foods that you can be pumping out of your kitchen. So that's great to hear. And we know that school nutrition programs in rural communities often use grants and external sources to help their program best meet the children's needs as they face financial difficulties, outside of a pandemic and those other challenges. But now let's look at those difficulty change during a pandemic. So the pandemic forced schools to close. Children were in and out of the classrooms, parents often having to shift where and how they were working, oftentimes to help teach their kids. And perhaps most importantly, school nutrition departments faced one of the biggest challenges they may have ever faced and may ever will face. How do we feed children in the middle of a pandemic? And what are some of the biggest challenges you faced during the pandemic? And Tina, we'll have you kick us off.
Well, just not knowing from one day to the next what to expect as far as labor, food shortages, the supplies. We just had to adjust and overcome and just change, climb one hill to get to the other. Expect the unexpected, and one day isn't the same as the next. You just had to keep dreaming.
Absolutely. And Anna, how about yourself?
So as for my district, we served meals in many different ways throughout the pandemic. We had drive-through meal pickup. We had meal delivery where parents were required to sign their child up and we delivered to individual homes, central pickup locations throughout the county. And when children finally did return to the classroom in 2021, they were only attending school on a hybrid schedule or Monday through Thursday. So the flexibilities allowed us to send home weekend meals to close the hunger gap there. And so my district actually benefited financially during that time while, of course, reaching more children. But for 21-22, things got a little harder. Food costs went up and they're continuing to go up, cost of supplies and just the supply chain issue shortages. It's made it very hard for us to get food, much less food that meets the requirements. The national labor shortage, we've heard from many of our manufacturers, they don't have the staff, so they're discontinuing our products and we're left with our hands tied of not being able to serve the students the nutritious, high quality foods that they enjoy. So some of them are just choosing not to eat with us anymore. So that gives us, lower participation, lower reimbursement, and that's certainly not the direction that we want to go in, financially with the increased cost of food and supplies. So it's been really tough.
We've heard from across the country how the supply chain issues, the labor shortages, and the rising food and gas prices are just really hitting child nutrition programs all over the country. So thank you for pointing that out. And Janet, how about you?
The challenges, or we choose to say opportunities to excel, that we faced during the pandemic included planning, staffing, weather, horrible weather here, supply chain and participation. The ever-changing guidance and waivers kept us in a state of fluidity. So deciding if we're going to serve daily, biweekly, weekly, where we're going to serve hot items, cold items, individual items, bulk items. I mean, those were just some of the decisions that we faced. Logistics and weather also factored into our plans. We live in the high desert, so it would not be uncommon for us to have a 115-degree day. And of course, all of our staff would be outside and we would put up, little tents for them to be under, but there's no way you can get away from the heat. Our staffing faced issues such as COVID, symptoms of COVID, taking care of family with COVID, being exposed to COVID, high-risk employees and exhaustion, leaving us shorthanded every day. All of us in the in the office, we were all out serving meals. We had our administrators out serving meals. It was just crazy. Anyone that was willing to work, we had them working. Our families were hungry, and I have to say they were afraid. They were afraid of where they would receive their next meal. They were afraid of getting COVID. They were afraid of being jobless. It was a very difficult time. So helping to eliminate some of their fears and some of the fears of our employees also played a huge part in our challenges. And like Anna said, you know, the shortage right now is crazy. There are often times that we'll order paper products and they just don't show. I mean, we don't have sporquettes, we don't have straws, we don't have serving trays. So the challenges just are continuing this school year. And also, you know, the cost has gone up greatly.
And Janet, on that note, can you share any stories of when trucks arrive and maybe they don't have anything that you ordered in them? What does that feel like? What do you do?
You know what, that happens. It's still continuing to happen. I actually just had a situation this morning where we have a catering event and they were very specific. They wanted this item, this item, this item, and it's 4 weeks away. And I had to call them and say, I can't guarantee any of this. I'm ordering double of it and things that you don't even want, hoping that I get some of it, because we don't know what's going to come. At any point, you might get 40% of what you ordered. And so then, of course, you are hustling to find out what can you substitute from your freezer that's not going to affect tomorrow. And you're constantly running, trying to backfill because you truly don't know. You don't know what's going to show up on those trucks when they arrive.
It truly sounds like a game of Tetris.
It is. There's times that you'll order extra because you know you're only going to get 40%. But on that week, the 80% will come and then you don't have place for it in the freezer. So it was just kind of I don't know, you had to constantly jump from place to place to see where you could make things work.
Such uncertainty with the supply chain issues. And Tina or Anna, do you have any stories that you want to share in terms of trucks showing up and you open it up and my gosh, there's nothing in there that you ordered?
I'll say I've
Go
had
ahead.
many of times that I have had to, you know, like I said, we live pretty far out from any chain grocery stores, things like that. So I have found myself many days driving 45 minutes to, you know, Sam's Club or even Walmart just to get items that we have to have that day. So it's very, you have to be very fast and flexible to fulfill the needs.
It's very challenging, to say the least.
And the challenges continue even before the pandemic, during, after. And Anna, before you mentioned some solutions, and those were just some of the innovations that took place over the last couple of years. And there was so much creativity that we saw during the pandemic to continue feeding children and assuring that they had access to nutritious foods, even when they were at home. So can you describe some creative ways that you discovered to continue feeding children during the pandemic? And Anna, perhaps we'll start with you to expand upon some of the solutions you mentioned before.
Yeah, so we really focused on trying to get high quality food out to the kids since they were not going to be in the school building. So we were packaging, you know, pizzas, calzones, you know, we weren't just doing simple sandwiches and things like that. We were really trying to give them high quality food so they would still come eat with us. And just going to them, that was a big thing when we were able to finally start the mobile, just meeting them where they needed.
Definitely. And how did the waivers impact your work?
Yeah, so the USDA waivers, I have to say they have been amazing. And so the non-congregant, that was probably one of the best for me as far as being the large county. So we have a lot of area to cover with limited resources, limited staff. We only have one mobile van. So that allowed us to essentially drop meals and go. So the families knew what time to be at the location, and we would get meals out very quickly and be able to go instead of, sitting around and waiting for 20, 25 minutes for a child to eat. So that was one of the bigger ones for us. Of course, the meal pattern with all the supply chain issues, that has been a saving grace for us. We do try to follow as close as possible, but when you don't get something on the truck, you just have to do what you got to do. And then also the parent pickup, that was another one big for us. 2 families come to mind. We had a family with 13 children and one with 10. So they couldn't get to a meal site and be present safely. So it was nice to know that, mom and maybe a couple of kids would come, but that she was able to get 13 meals to take home. So that was those 2 families. It was really nice to know we could feed them.
And that's a whole lot of meals just for that one family. And think about all of the families that you fed and that you reached, not just that day, but the entire service that summer. That's fantastic. And Tina, how about any creative ways that you can share with us?
Well, we started out with a donation from of insulated bags, like the kind you pick up at the grocery store. They came from a large corporation that helped us to get started. And then we moved on to the coolers, like I mentioned. And now we have the refrigerated truck that goes out 4 days a week, every week, and still delivers meals. Some things that we did, we tried to use a lot of our commodities when there wasn't things available to us. So we buy the little cups and freeze the fruit and package it so we could send it out with the meals. And we did use a lot of our commodities. We made our own little TV dinners with chicken nuggets and mashed potatoes and green beans, and put the lid on it, put it back in the freezer and pack it up later and go, and just wash the fruit. And we weren't able to have a lot of prepackaged items, but we tried our best and tried to put it all together in our own little packages so it was attainable.
Seems like you made lemonade out of lemons there. You didn't have the prepackaged and you made it yourself, which is amazing. And we often don't think about, again, the point A to point B. So just having the donation of insulation bags was just so creative and so helpful for you and your team. And Jana, how about some creative solutions from you?
The answer to this question is largely a result of the waivers that we were extended. We were able to serve all the meals together weekly. We had started out, a daily breakfast and a daily lunch, but the parents just didn't want to come all the way for, one meal. So we just started serving weekly. We had a grab and grow day, and we would have cars lined up down the highway. And this enabled those with transportation issues the opportunity for nutritious meals. It also helped with our labor shortage, as more time was able to be spent on prepping and bagging meals. So thankfully, we were able to adhere for the most part to all the components regulations. We only had to vary slightly, and the waivers gave us the latitude to focus on feeding the students. I think serving weekly really, really, truly benefited the families. We were able to put in bulk items, and we were also able to put individual items so that perhaps they were home by themselves during the day. The kids, they were able to microwave something really quickly. But then we also, we did turkey and gravy for Thanksgiving. We had a whole Thanksgiving meal, turkey, gravy, cans of corn, rolls, so that not only did they have food that they could just heat up, but they also had full meals that could benefit the whole family. We had so many grateful parents. They would come through and just be so positive to everything that we gave them. So it was really rewarding, even though we had to think out of the box and somehow it took a few weeks for us to get it all together. We've kind of got it figured out now. So when we had to switch back to serving in school, it was like, oh man, what are we doing? So it was actually, we did it, but again, it goes back to our team. Our team was so creative. If they had a better idea, we listened to everyone. And when they came up with something that worked, we would say, okay, let's try this here. Let's try this there. And the families benefited. The team worked together so hard. So we just made it work.
And not only is it helpful to the parents and the caregivers having something that a child can just heat up, but also you don't want a child working with knives or potentially turning on the oven or the stove, especially if the parent or caretaker isn't home. So that was, I'm sure, very grateful to the child as well, to not have to call mom or dad as to how do I turn on the oven? And then mom and dad say, whoa, don't go near that oven, but let's see what else we can find for you to eat. And so these are great innovations. So thank you for sharing all of them. And they all came about because of the waivers, it sounds like. And so moving forward, we're really able to pull from so many learnings, as this was basically a test run to see how can these creative solutions really work in real time. So as we move forward, what permanent changes would you like to see in child nutrition programs? If you had your magic wand, what would you change in order to better serve children in rural America? And Janet, we'll stay with you first.
All right. Well, there's probably 3 changes, permanent changes that I think should be made. The first one is during summer feeding. Serving non-congregate is huge. In our area, number one, the families drive 30 miles to then sit there in the hot desert to eat for 15 minutes because, of course, they have to eat there. And that's just a lot. It's a lot on the parents, it's a lot on the kids. None of us would want to go, to a picnic in the park when it's 115 degrees and sit there and eat our food. It's not smart, or, I don't know. It's not a good thing. Forcing them to drive, it's not desirable, and it hinders participation in the program. The second thing would be the CACFP at-risk suppers. Those should be available to all students. Right now, it's if they're enrolled in an enrichment activity or class. So you could see on our numbers, that's 10% of our children. So only 10% of our children have the opportunity to even participate in the program. And you say, well, 10%, at least it's 10%. But there's 90% that are ineligible, that they cannot get that meal. The last thing is universal free meals for every student. No barriers, no paperwork. Just let us feed the kids. Let them not have to worry about, well, does someone know that I'm really free? Or how am I going to come up with the 40 cents to cover my reduced meal? It's hard. Kids, there's a lot of bullying and it doesn't help it. Just let us feed those kids. They're our future leaders. Let them have positive things to say about their upbringing so that they can be better citizens in our world.
And also you mentioned a few administrative efficiencies. So on your side as well, of let's make sure that these children, again, we're meeting them where they're at. So for those child and after school programs, having that 4th meal service, so that dinner, that supper, and then taking away the paperwork for some of these waivers, like the area eligibility, expanding that so we can reach more kids in need, but also make it easier on your side as well. And Tina, how about you? With what would you think going forward? What would you like to see made permanent?
I love for them to keep all the waivers. They've proven to work. Why change something that's good? We need to help feed the children. And I mean, who could ever thought that we've done what we've done? I mean, not me, but everyone, having to go forward, not being able to reach these children without these waivers would be more devastating for our children of all communities, schools, and cities in the United States. It's just unbearable to think.
Being able to reach more children is definitely what we're trying to do, especially moving forward as well. And Anna, how about yourself?
Yeah, so even though that I'm in a CEP district, I still think that universal free meals would benefit. Children go to public school for free. They or have the opportunity to have transportation to and from school for free. So why should they not have free school meals? That's, just my opinion on it. But also the non-congregant meals for summer feeding. I just think that that is a big one. We would be able to make those individual home deliveries for the ones that can't get to a site. We would, like, if you were from a big county or a very spread out area like I am, you would be able to reach more children, not having to spend time sitting with them while they eat. So in the end, just reaching more children, and that's what we're here for.
Definitely. And thank you all for those answers. And we do have some questions that came through in the chat. So I'm glad we have some time to touch on them. So the first question we have here is, have you been able to incorporate local grown and locally raised in your menu at all? And if so, has that helped with supply chain issues? So whoever would like to go first on that one.
All right, well, I'll go first. We have several farmers close by, even in our small town of Morongo Valley, that we're able to go ahead and reach out to, and anything they have available, we're able to grab from them. And of course, through our vendors, we pretty much buy everything California, local grown. And so that does definitely benefit us. Yes.
As for me in Henry County, I have not been able to incorporate any local, but I really am wanting to start, pandemic or not, just incorporating more local into our meals.
We've used all of our, we have, I think there's 5 beef producers in near our
Nice.
counties, and we've had all of our hamburger meats been fresh. It's not been from anywhere else but our local producers. We've been able to do that all this year.
That's great. And that not only helps with the supply chain issues going on right now, but it also gives back to the local economy, which is so nice to keep it in the community as well. And a few other questions we have here. How have you overcome labor shortages in the recent months? We know that you are all a jack of all trades and you jump in at any moment to do any job. Is that the solution for the labor shortages in the recent times?
I'll say that I have, my assistant and we have worked in the kitchen quite often, but we also have, like Janet said, we are a family. So we have lots of people that are willing, maybe from another school to go to the school that might be shorthanded. So it's been, it doesn't always work out, but that has been a very big help for the times that me or my assistant can't go, because due to the labor shortage, we currently do not have any subs either. So it's pulling strings and doing what we can.
We have the same issue as Anna. At any day, we never are less than 10% short of our workforce, and it goes up to 25%. So we have people that are part-time employees. They work double shifts. We bring administrators in to help. We actually pull subs from different departments because we just need people to help. So, but again, our family has stepped up. Our employees have just been able to make it happen, and the kids eat every day. So it's really our team. Our team is awesome.
Extremely dedicated staff in every way, shape, and form, before, during, and as we continue into what will be our new normal, which I put in quotes because we're not sure what that will look like. And a few other questions we have here. So this is about poverty. If we take a step back, and the person is asking, could you give your view of what the most prevalent problems are? So is it unaffordable housing, unemployment, low wages, or what other factors, particularly in your rural communities, do you face?
In our community, there is no housing at all, and there's hardly any other than at the school or at the local grocery store, the county workers. That's pretty much it for our community, unless they want to drive at least 20 or more miles anywhere to work. So it's all together. It's everything.
Yeah, that's kind of the same for us too. It all kind of circles back around, but for us, there's not a lot of employment opportunity. So you either see families moving out, or you see families driving further, and no one wanting to stay. So when kids move off to college or something like that, they often don't come back.
We have kind of a bigger town, Palm Springs, that's about an hour away from us, hour to an hour and a half, depending on which end of the district you live on. And so a lot of our family, their parents work down in the low desert. And so although it's great to have a job, it's quite expensive to drive there and drive back every single day, especially with the gas prices as they are right now. And I think that this isn't just a rural community issue. I think that there's poverty everywhere. I think that jobs, although they're available, they don't pay enough to actually meet the needs of a family, paying for your housing and your food and all the things that you need. I think that is throughout our whole country. It's not just rural. And so I think there's struggling families everywhere.
Absolutely. There are so many root causes to poverty, not just in rural communities, but in a variety of different communities. So thank you for shedding light on that as well. And bringing it back to all of your districts, if you could name one thing that would most help your district meet students' food needs, what would it be?
Definitely continuing the waivers, giving us the opportunity to feed the kids. Making it so available to them that hunger isn't an issue.
I agree.
Yes.
Great. And now we will try to round it out and end on a more positive note with these two questions. We will first start off with, what is one piece of practical advice that you would give to other school food directors?
In there, you're not alone. We're all in this together, and think outside of the box.
Absolutely.
Mine would be, everything you do it for the best interest of the kids.
Mine would be, do the unimaginable. Think of something that would be wonderful for your students, your district, and your community, no matter how unreachable. And reach for it, one step at a time. If you take one step each year, before you know it, you'll be there.
That's absolutely right. We have to think of those small wins and those little steps rather than trying to reach for that aspirational reach right away. And the last question that I want you all to dig deep in and share stories, what do you find most rewarding about your work? And this could be on multiple levels. It can be you and your staff, the children, the families, your community reach. What do you think is most rewarding?
Just the pride in knowing and being able to help as many as you can help and reaching out. It's just right there.
Yeah, I think mine is just knowing that we are closing that hunger gap for the students and the children. Some of them, not even enrolled in our district in the summertime and things like that. And just, knowing that we're helping the families. We saw it a lot when families were coming to pick up meals. Like Janet said, families were so appreciative, and knowing that they really appreciate what we do. It's very rewarding.
I think for me, it's making a difference. It's not just the kids that you're making a difference for, it's also for your staff. It's somehow making their world a better place. Be it hunger, be it just needing a smiling face. but you're making the difference. You're showing that you care and somehow making it better for the next generation.
And all three of you are making such a difference and an impact, not just in your communities, but today here in sharing a little bit of your stories and your experiences in this session. And so thank you all for your continuous work and really getting us to think outside of the box to feed children across the country, especially those in the rural, hard to reach communities. And so this brings us to the conclusion of our panel. So thank you all for participating and tuning in. And I hope you stay tuned for the other panel sessions to come, and we will meet again soon.
Thank you.
This brings us to the close of day one of our two-day 2022 Virtual Rural Child Hunger Summit. I'm Valerie Hawkins, a senior manager in No Kids Hungry Center for Best Practices and part of this year's Summit Planning Committee. I would like to start by thanking you all, the speakers, Secretary Vilsack and Secretary Cardona, for the excellent, thought-provoking talks, the panelists and moderators for each of the sessions, and our summit sponsor, Land O'Lakes. However, most importantly, I would like to thank again you all, the participants. During today's session, we heard from many voices that have a stake in the future of eliminating child hunger and food insecurity in rural America. What those voices concluded is that this work includes all of us, our partner organizations like Save the Children, school districts, community organizations, and all of those represent all sectors of our communities. As we have heard this morning, rural childhood hunger impacts us all, whether we live in rural America or not. I know that there have been many innovative solutions and useful information shared today, both in the plenary session and in the interactive sessions. Good experiences have been shared, new lessons learned that will allow us to reboot, reconnect, and redesign our efforts and programs to make sure we create equitable solutions for all rural children. What is clear from today's session is that there is great work being done throughout our rural communities. However, the journey remains as we work together intentionally in our fight to end hunger in our rural communities. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we build on today's learnings and explore how equitable programming, sustainable design, and creative solutions can overcome common barriers in rural communities. Have a good evening.